Tech family, when it comes to laptops for most people, I've felt for quite some time the 14-inch form factor is where it's at. These laptops are small enough to be portable, but the screen is big enough to get some real work done. Particularly those with a 16:10 aspect ratio, where you see a decent amount of information going down the page. In fact, when I think about buying a new laptop for myself, the 14-inch form factor is the one I'd look for. We've seen some really promising 14-inch laptops hit the market, but all of them haven't really hit the mark. For example, the HP Envy 14 is a powerful laptop, but it's big and heavy. The ThinkPad Carbon Gen 9 is a quality-feeling, lightweight laptop with excellent battery life, but its screen options aren't the best, and its keyboard is less comfortable than ThinkPads of old. Anyway, I haven't found the perfect device for me. Luckily, XMG reached out, a brand I'd seen many positive reviews on my friends' channels. I was eager to try out one of their devices, so jumped at the opportunity. They asked me if I wanted to review one of their larger, more powerful laptops, but my audience contains a lot of students, software developers, and casual users. Plus, I'm personally interested in a lightweight 14-inch laptop for myself. So I thought their Schenker Vision 14 sounded more interesting. And by the way, sometimes I call them XMG. Schenker is actually their professional line and XMG their gaming. The Vision 14 is really XMG's customized version of the Tongfang ID4H1. Tongfang is the manufacturer and assembler of the chassis and the core components. You'll find this laptop customized and resold by a variety of brands around the world. So, over the last 5 weeks, I've been using it, and I have a lot to say about it, as I was really impressed by this laptop. Let's start with the chassis. It is extremely lightweight at only 1,023 grams or 2.25 pounds. When I think about which laptop I want to pick up and use on a daily basis, and I have many, one of the most important factors is how lightweight it is. I want something comfortable to use on my lap and that isn't going to weigh me down in my backpack. The good news continues as the build quality is much better than I expected. It's got a full metal anodized aluminium chassis. It isn't quite at the build quality of Lenovo's ThinkPad or Dell's XPS line, but it's better than Dell's Inspiron line and as good as Lenovo's IdeaPad line. The laptop's lid has this satisfying click to it when it closes. I'd assume it uses a magnet. It does mean it's a little harder to open with one hand though. The screen to body ratio of the laptop is excellent. Not a lot of wasted space from the bezel showing. It looks modern and the logo on the front is very subtle. The port selection is good. You've got a Thunderbolt 4.0 port on either side of the laptop that both supports charging, which is great, as you won't have to run a power cable around the back if your power outlet is on the other side, which I have to do on a lot of laptops. It has 2 USB-A ports, although these are the slower 3.2 Gen 1, 5 gigabit speeds. There is an HDMI 2.0 port and an SD card reader. The card sticks out a ton when it's in, so make sure you don't accidentally hit it and break the card. Also, the SD card reader is the slower UHS 1 type. It's handy to transfer files in a pinch, but it is not going to satisfy the needs of professional videographers or photographers transferring large amounts of footage. Internals are a welcome surprise. You've got user replaceable RAM and SSD. Yay! What's awesome is XMG have spared no expense on their customization of this laptop. You've got an extremely fast PCIe 4.0 Samsung 980 Pro SSD. It scored the fastest test scores of any SSD I've ever tested. You've also got Samsung RAM. You can see that the chassis has room for the dedicated RTX 3050 Ti graphics that will be available in an upgraded configuration. And there is room for a second cooling fan to cool that. The cooling solution with the one heat pipe does look a little lackluster. It actually performs surprisingly well though, which you'll see later in the video. The display is excellent and exactly what I want in a 14-inch device. It's got the perfect balance of pixel density, display brightness and size for me to see a large amount of information with everything looking super crisp. At a window scaling setting that maximizes the amount of information on screen without me feeling like I needed to squint, I managed to see 44 rows of Excel, which is very satisfactory for this kind of device. It's also a matte display, so even though it only has 370 nits of brightness, the fact that it has no reflections on screen makes everything easy to see in most lighting conditions. Honestly, it's plenty bright. The colors are also good enough for most users, other than perhaps creating print material. Also, the 90Hz refresh rate makes scrolling feel very smooth. Only minor ding was there was a little backlight bleed in a completely dark environment. I would show you, but it was quite minor and hard to pick up. The keyboard is very comfortable to use. Ample key travel with a comfortable tactile click. In fact, the keyboard on this laptop is more comfortable than the latest ThinkPad line. Honestly, keyboard comfort is something that I see lacking in a lot of laptops these days. I'm looking at you, MacBook Pro. However, The keyboard's layout is also the biggest issue I have with this version of the laptop. I'm used to an ANSI keyboard layout. XMG's version of this laptop only comes with an ISO layout. If you are unfamiliar with these two layouts, the ISO layout has a different shaped Enter and Shift keys, and the back and forward slashes are in different places. ANSI is heavily used in the USA, and ISO is used in other parts of the world. No surprises, due to the difference in layouts, I made a ton of typing mistakes on this laptop's keyboard. If you are used to an ISO layout, then this is not an issue at all. But unfortunately, at this time, XMG does not offer a configuration with an ANSI one. You'll have to buy this laptop from another reseller of the Tongfang ID4H1 chassis. It's a pity, as this is such a great laptop for me, other than that one thing. If you feel XMG should make an ANSI version available, make sure to tweet to XMG about it. I'll leave a link in the description below. The trackpad is good enough. It's smooth and accurate for tracking. However, I found that when clicking it, the trackpad depresses more than I'd like, and accuracy during and after a click is not ideal. It is perfectly usable though, it's just not enjoyable. Now, I kept performance to later in the review as my version of this laptop uses the well-known Intel i7-1165G7 CPU. I've been testing it for over a year now in many different laptops, and I feel we all know how it performs. The skinny is this: it is plenty fast for everyday tasks like browsing the web, watching movies, and it's good enough for students. It's also fast enough for light to medium weight coding, and the G7 graphics is good enough for basic video editing and playing some simple non-AAA games, and of course esports titles. But there are a couple of special things I want to call out which I noticed when I was running my tests on this laptop. Firstly, XMG manages to keep this laptop running at 28 watts of power for an extended period of time, which is really good for this CPU. You can see how this plays out in my 10-minute torture test of Cinebench R23, which tests how the laptop performs when the CPU is under full load. You can see that this laptop annihilates every other laptop I've tested with this CPU. The only exception is the HP Envy 14. I had the i5 version of this CPU, by the way, but that is a much bulkier and heavier laptop. What is the icing on the cake is this laptop surface temperatures where you would have your hands remains very comfortable to the touch. XMG have done a great job with this. There is a trade-off as the fans run really loud when pushed like this. By the way, as I said, I am testing the max performance of this laptop here on overboost mode. For casual tasks like browsing the web, the laptop remains virtually silent. My Dell XPS 13 9310 runs noticeably warmer to the touch, and my HP Spectre 14 has much louder fans during regular use, like browsing the web, writing code, watching movies. For these tasks, this laptop remains cool to the touch, and the fan noise is literally non-existent. By the way, XMG's configuration software is very cool. It's one of the first I've seen that lets you limit the performance of the laptop based on how many decibels of fan noise you will hear. Very useful. I ran a couple of gaming benchmarks and it didn't reach the heights of its CPU-only performance. My hypothesis here is this laptop has a cooling solution that's good enough to cool the CPU, but when we are also engaging the GPU, it probably isn't robust enough and performance becomes limited. I kind of wish they installed that second fan that the laptop has space for inside the chassis. Other than that, Wi-Fi 6 performance is decent, but latency mon results aren't great. The laptop does have Windows Hello facial recognition, which is handy. Oh, and there is an included Ethernet adapter that comes with the laptop. The webcam is the usual garbage. I mean, this is the best possible lighting conditions right now. And I mean, look at the lamp behind me. That's just not the right color. The sound is surprisingly good, even though speakers are downward facing. The sound seems to travel very nicely through the chassis. The speakers get loud and are relatively clear with a decent sound stage. They do sound a bit tinny though, and obviously there is pretty much no bass. As small laptop speakers go though, they are pretty decent. Just don't expect the full, powerful sound you'd get on a MacBook Pro 13 here. Battery life. The laptop has a 53 watt-hour battery, which is a decent size. To test it, I ran the laptop for 5 hours playing a Netflix movie on repeat over Wi-Fi. Power mode was set to battery saver and brightness was set to about 75%, which to be honest is still insanely bright on this screen. 80% of power was used, so it should be able to get around 6.5 hours operating like this, but as I said, the screen was still very bright. I feel you should be able to hit close to 8 hours if you dim the brightness a lot. Pricing. XMG informs me that the price for my configuration is around €1,700 with Windows Pro, so it definitely isn't a budget device. It's more premium, and that's how I'm going to judge it. So here's what I think of the XMG Vision 14. I like it. In fact, if there was a version of it with an ANSI keyboard layout, I'd probably buy one for myself and replace my Dell XPS 13. I like that it has a larger screen than the XPS, a more comfortable keyboard, replaceable RAM, and it doesn't get as warm to the touch under regular use. It also will be able to be configured with a powerful NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti graphics, and XMG informs me there will be an option with Intel's slightly more powerful H35 CPUs. For my use, I like the laptop better than the HP Envy 14 as it's much lighter. I like it better than the HP Spectre 14 as it's quieter when it comes to fan noise. Compared to the new ThinkPad range, it has a more comfortable keyboard and an excellent matte display, which I feel is better than the options available on, say, the Carbon Gen 9. It also has a more comfortable keyboard than the Yoga Slim 7 Pro and the Razer Blade 14. So yes, for my use case, for a small laptop for browsing the web, watching movies, coding, if you use an ISO keyboard, XMG's Vision 14 is really good. If you do want this laptop with an ANSI keyboard, try searching for other resellers of this Tongfang chassis. That being said, if you're in the market for a device like this, I still think there are a couple of other strong contenders depending on your use case. If you're good with macOS, the MacBook Pro 13 has better battery life, better multi-core performance, better speakers, and a better webcam, but its screen is smaller, it's also a lot heavier. And of course, it doesn't have an option for powerful graphics. The Lenovo Yoga Slim 7 Pro with AMD Ryzen 5800H has a far more powerful CPU, even though, as I said, its keyboard isn't as comfortable and it's heavier. The ThinkPad Yoga is also a decent all-round option if you want to draw or take notes on the screen. Oh, and of course, the Asus G14 has far more powerful components, particularly if you want to do some serious, say, AAA gaming. Although to me, it doesn't feel as quality of a device as this one, and it's definitely bulkier. Well, that's all for today, folks. XMG did leave a positive impression on me, so I do plan to look at more of their laptops in future. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up and the notification bell. Not only does it show your appreciation for the effort that goes into making these, but it also makes my mum happy. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter and TikTok for plenty of behind the scenes content and info on upcoming videos. Links in the description below. Till next time, go do something awesome with your day and I will catch you later.